Alrighty, welcome back. This is Book Club, and we are back at it again with Blueprint for Black Power, Chapter 12, Economic Order and Power. This was a great read and learned a lot. I would say, to summarize it from what I've gotten from it, having an economic system is very crucial, very important when it comes to growth and development, supporting businesses as well as supporting a political goal. And I even listened to a lecture of Amos Wilson where he talks about the economic philosophy and African nationalism. And one of the things that he addressed as, I would say, a common thing when it comes to the black community with economics is how we separate money from culture. You know, like earlier in chapter 1, we view power as bad because that was the only form, you know, most of us had seen or experienced in, you know, when it comes to using it as a force and to punish or, you know, inflict pain or whatever. And with money, it's like the whole thing of, you know, it's not everything, but it does impact a lot of stuff. And basically he was just saying how it should be integrated into our culture where we do want to live well off, and we do want to, you know, live a wealthy lifestyle and make it important just as, you know, other people integrate money in their culture. And also too, what I learned from is how with in the past, when us as a people are wanting to integrate in a system, then it stunts our growth with, you know, what we can do for ourselves when it comes to, you know, economics or with anything. You know, we stop our potential. We're preventing, you know, our developments and even limiting the possibilities of, you know, what if we took things in a matter of our own hands. But I really thought it was a great read. And as always, you know, what are your thoughts from chapter 12 when it comes to economic order and power?
Okay, well, I'll say. I got a little pressed because this was in the mid 90s and was on point with most of what he said, as we're seeing it all bear out now. Just looking back then, it's like if we, you know, again, our leaders are put in quotes, had gotten on the ball even then with how things, you know, were kind of dire at that point. Excuse me, would be so much better now. But as far and again with the blueprint, especially the focus being on the African American community, not talking about folks of African descent from other countries, specifically our ethnic group. Something that we could still do today. It's going to be much harder because the distractions, even as he pointed out then, were there, and in earlier chapters, people who, I guess that, you know, currently we call them agents and all kinds of things who do things to disrupt us from progressing and from, you know, having a true foothold in this society as best as we can, and making sure that when we do things, we do it for our best interest. And we still have people, if it's political leaders or community leaders, who do things to discourage that or to, you know, to outright interrupt that. That means that us in the community, we need to apply this, and those folks will get pushed out of get pushed out of the way for the most part. And look at our numbers when he discusses the economic issues that affect us with specifically with employment, and how we need to have more control. I mean, again, then how we need to have more control over our destiny. That and it ultimately it comes down to us, when you were mentioning integration, having a hard shift away from that. I mean, you can't avoid that. I said in many areas we need to. I think we need to have a line. There are things in this country, obviously, because there's so many different people here. You're going to interact and have friends and all of that, but when it comes to us progressing, we have got to, like everybody else, have a tight grip on us, be together, and do things that move us forward, and that means us working with us in many different levels. We can't invite everybody into the discussion when we're talking about our issues. But that's not you see, that's not how everybody else operates. We're the only people where that seems to be the case.
Right.
But I thought it was just when he starts off in the description he gives here, he quotes Thomas Dye, that control of economic resources provides a continuous and important, this is on page 247, a continuous and important base of power in any society. That just some of the basic stuff that we need to look at and work towards doing. Talk about it, actually work toward in greater numbers. There are people doing things, but in greater numbers, a collective. So for me, this was another great chapter, as you said, when he talks about how we lost the workforce about in the 90s. On page 280, he says where black losses were most disproportionate. You see where other people's through economic downturns, where other groups gained a little bit. I mean, almost. I think it was all that we lost.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, again, it just hammers home. We need to, in order for us to do better. Period. Just that, just for us to do better, we've got to not go the integration route in everything. We've got to come together. We've got to make decisions and take control of our own destiny. It can't be, you sit back and you're comfortable under somebody else's system. It's not going to work. Not going to work at all.
Right. And
I'm
it
not,
means, oh, go ahead, Hollow.
if I'm not mistaken, the first edition of Blueprint for Black Power was in 1998.
Yeah, I think the writing was 94. I mean,
Yeah, and
94,
I think
95.
well, it was put out after he passed, so
Right,
he
right.
did it in the early 90s. And do you
Yeah.
see the part in there where he was talking about globalization?
Yes, yes. I'm like so much. That's what I was like. I was slightly depressed. I mean, it's great, obviously, getting this information and being able to say, okay, going forward, I'm changed my mindset on a lot of things. But it's great to read that and see. But I was like, this is in the 90s.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, the globalization part. Yes,
and what he described is exactly what's going on and
absolutely.
what we're dealing with now. It's like, and because we didn't prepare for it, what happens?
Behind.
We're at the mercy of everybody else, and with it,
Yeah.
the people who have the control and the power.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's globalization has created a situation where now you can employ you can have a company like, let's say, Nike, where you wrap yourself up in America propaganda and America iconotry and all that other stuff, but your company is actually not in America.
Right.
Your labor force is not in America. You're getting cheap labor overseas and marking up and selling it, 500% over here to Americans because we're consumers. And so now, before, black folks used to be used for their labor, but now we're being squeezed out of that.
Yeah.
And we're not creating anything. We're not creating industries that can employ our people. We're not building up infrastructure, because those are the two ways to create jobs: through industries and through building up your infrastructure. And we don't want to do either one.
There's no political will amongst our our leaders to do that.
No, we don't have any leaders. That's what the
Right,
problem
right.
is.
Again, I put that in quotes.
Yeah,
The
we don't have
encouragement in
any.
this society is to not do that unless you have a mindset where you're going to look out for your people, and that's rare in leadership.
Yeah,
Really, you can be the leader of a black organization, and really, you're really not working towards the betterment of your people.
yeah, because that organization doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in a socio-economic and
Absolutely,
political context that ain't ours.
absolutely, absolutely.
And it doesn't have a Gucci belt wrapped around it, so Negroes ain't gonna be interested.
Like, take for instance, this showed you how we look at reality. You got people talking about purchasing land.
Mm-hmm.
If you already have a country, what do you have to purchase land
Land
for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But see, that's the way we think.
that's right.
We
That's
think
a
like
good point.
consumers.
A good point. Hollop, the stories of people buying acres here, acres there.
Right.
It's yeah, it's true. It's quite a bit of that, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's you, but you're here, and I mean, if we're talking about as a community, group, our people as a group, it's not going to do it in the long run.
You
It's
have
not
to
going to
have
do
a
it in the long run.
government that you can control,
That's right.
so that way you can
Policy,
control the
absolutely,
territory.
absolutely.
Or at least influence. You know what I'm
I
saying?
want I want to control
Mhm.
it. That's the best way to influence, is to be in control. Because I'm not too much a bigger fan of working with people anymore. I mean,
Yeah, that's tired of
Meaning,
that.
just
meaning,
take the shit. When me and Lucy's in charge, then we know shit'll get done.
damn, skip it.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. You got it. You have to be in control. That's the only way you're going to get things done. You have to be in control. Like, I'm not willing to cede anything to these people, because, like I said, it's like with the whole BAIO thing. Everybody, like, after the BIO gets formed and then they see where it's going, now all of a sudden everybody want to work together. Whatever, man, get the fuck out of here. If people wanted working together, there would be no BAIO. We came into existence through a void. Now you gonna pretend the void don't exist? There ain't nobody working together.
Nope.
Nobody's working together. So don't play me on that bullshit.
Saying that, well, a lot has been said, and we all made
Mhm.
some great points, when it
Mhm.
came to globalization and having a workflow, or money circulating when we tap into any society. Because unfortunately right now we're in a business of surviving, where it's not a business of thriving and actually having management and stuff, being in control, and
Hmm.
going back to the chapter, like, once we have a social and political structure, once we reestablish things with Liberia, then we could go into the economics, and a lot more deeper. And I remember, Jabari, if you could expound on it, like, you've talked about how with economics, it should be taken to where we learn it should be taken to, like, where people are learning economics, it shouldn't just be the micro and the macro, but also, like, the advanced economics as well, right? If you can speak, Jabari.
Yes. I mean, you can go further. I mean, you just need to know the micro and the macro, because that can that leads, of course, to the advanced economics. But that's like if you really want to. But people need to know at least macro and micro, because if you don't understand that, it doesn't really matter
Mm.
about advanced economics. You don't even understand the basics of economics.
Hmm.
It's like, can we? It's like trying to get. It's like me as an engineer trying to teach you Cal 3 when you don't know how to do Cal 1. If you can't do Cal 1 or to Cal 2, you can't do Cal 3.
Right. And it's like, one of the ways of knowing how things work in the world, because obviously economics does play a big part, but unfortunately, from the things that we talked about with celebrities and stuff, that's not being promoted as such. Like we had other leaders like Claude Anderson. He's been preaching about economics for a while, and how you mentioned, the one united bank and the formula. If we have all just, had an account there and paid a very little amount, that we would have like $18 billion or so within a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So like things like that, it shows that we really have a lot to uncover, and the sooner we can develop that, then the sooner we can be up to date, because that's what it's all about. Like when Amos Wilson teaches these things and have these lectures, he's always talking about the future, right? He's always talking about being up to date on things, and being aware of what's coming next and stuff, new inventions, innovations and such. So
Yeah, and another thing is I have disagreements on. I don't like how they pointed out in the video China, because I just think that the way that they were portraying China, I think is not necessarily right or fair.
mhm.
But they were talking about surveillance and how that's starting to become like a daily thing in our lives. Is constantly being surveilled 24/7, being tracked your every movement, just being aware of that's gonna most likely happen in the future, where you're gonna see a lot of cameras all over the place. People are gonna be surveilled. People are gonna be that way. So, like you said, just anticipating that to happen and just adjust to it and prepare for it.
I don't have a problem
It's
with it.
happening
I,
now.
I
It's
I think
happening
I'm
now.
more. I think I'm like I might have a radical opinion in that, but I don't have a problem with surveillance. I think that
Me neither.
if you have cameras and everything is public, I have zero
Hmm.
problems with cameras being in the public.
I have no problem with that.
Zero problems.
Mhm. No, now what I mean by surveillance, I'm talking about like tracking people on their phones, tracking what they purchase, having a
How they
social
doing
credit
now?
system.
Yeah.
See, but that's pretty hard. Like if you're talking about if you're going to have like a digital society, it's going to be very hard not to track people.
True,
But my
that
thing
is
is,
true.
what are they tracking them for? Like what
That
most of the tracking is for, basically to nail down your buying habits so they can know what to market towards you.
mhm.
It's not. It's like because like
It's
people like I
not.
remember back in the days it was like the conspiracy. Oh, they can see you through the TV and they can track this. Like nigga, all they trying to do is find out what you buy so they can sell it to you. That's basically what they trying to do.
And my thing about it is I always say this. We complain about surveillance, but then I said, would you rather be in a country like Liberia where it's our government doing it and not somebody else's government?
Right.
Because if you live in the U.S. and let's say you're being surveilled, and you know that the U.S. government has a history of surveilling black activists, you think you're going to be able to do what you want to do in America and they not come after you?
Yeah, you already know what time it
But
is.
they do. And it happened to me.
We on our own ass out here. There's nobody manning the ship. So when people start talking about we, who are you talking about? There's no organized nothing. We trying to get to the point where we can actually get organized to form something tangible and concrete. We don't even have it.
Can't get niggas to sign up on a free website.
Exactly. So we so far behind the eight ball, it's ridiculous, man.
This is some good information that we can save on the next chapter 13, the financial corporate elites, the New World Government. See you next time on the Book Club. Once again, Tip. Watch me bust they shit.